This is going to be a lengthy narrative, and it's as bizarre as it sounds. I'll aim for conciseness, but there's considerable ground to cover. Whether anyone accepts this account is irrelevant. It's so absurd that I need to express it. I won't be evasive, but I'll omit any specifics that might reveal my identity to those unaware of the circumstances. I'm a 32-year-old man, and until a few months back, I was betrothed to Sarah, my girlfriend of 5 years. My younger sibling, Mike, is 29 and has consistently been our family's favored child. To fully grasp the gravity of this treachery and its profound impact on me, some background on our family dynamics and how we arrived at this juncture is necessary. During our upbringing, Mike was seemingly incapable of error in our parents' view, while I faced constant reprimands and penalties for minor infractions. This wasn't typical sibling rivalry or slight bias. It was blatant and severe. If Mike caused damage, I'd be blamed. If he initiated a conflict, I'd be restricted. If we both achieved excellent grades, Mike might receive a new gaming system, while I'd get a perfunctory acknowledgement and a directive to maintain my performance. Our parents, Tom and Linda, perpetually justified their preferential treatment. Mike's younger. He requires more attention. You're the elder. You should be more responsible. Mike's more emotionally fragile. We must handle him delicately. This incessant stream of illogical expectations and manipulation left me feeling inadequate and unloved within my own family. As we matured, the preferential treatment grew more pronounced. When I gained admission to a reputable university with a partial scholarship, my parents hardly acknowledged it. When Mike chose to enroll in community college, they hosted a large celebration and gifted him a vehicle for his commute, disregarding that I had been cycling 5 miles each way to my part-time employment for years. I relocated as soon as possible to escape the toxic environment. I financed my education by holding down 2 jobs and securing loans. Meanwhile, Mike withdrew from community college after a single semester, asserting it wasn't suitable for him. Our parents praised him for his self-awareness, rather than conforming to societal norms. They even supported his series of failed entrepreneurial endeavors over the years, no matter how ill-conceived or futile they were. Despite my efforts to create distance, my family consistently managed to draw me back. Holiday gatherings were excruciating, filled with veiled criticisms and overt comparisons. Are you still in that entry-level role? Well, Mike is considering launching another venture. He's quite the entrepreneur, ignoring the fact that I was steadily building a stable career while Mike depleted our parents' retirement funds. Regardless, I attempted to maintain contact with Mike. He was, after all, my brother. However, it was consistently one-directional. I'd attempt to connect, but he'd either disregard me or contrive a way to make the interaction a competition. If I received a promotion, Mike would suddenly have a significant opportunity arise. If I began a romantic relationship, Mike would invariably be in a serious one. I encountered Sarah while attempting to reconnect with Mike. She was an acquaintance of one of Mike's short-lived romantic partners, and we immediately connected. Sarah embodied everything I desired in a partner: intelligent, humorous, compassionate, and strikingly beautiful. We began a relationship, and for the first time, I felt genuinely content and valued. My parents, however, were less than thrilled. They made sarcastic remarks about Sarah being out of my league and speculated about her reasons for being with me. Mike, conversely, displayed an unusual level of interest in my life. He was perpetually inquiring about Sarah, seeking extensive details about her. At the time, I was merely relieved that he seemed engaged with something in my life. In retrospect, I should have recognized the warning signs. Sarah and I cohabitated after a year of dating, and it was wonderful. We both held thriving careers, traveled extensively, and discussed our aspirations for the future. For the first time, I began to envision the possibility of the life I'd always yearned for: a fulfilling profession, a loving partner, and perhaps children. One day, on our 4th anniversary, I proposed to Sarah. It was a simple affair, just a pleasant dinner at home, and a heartfelt declaration. I was ecstatic when she accepted. We intended to have a lengthy engagement and deliberate carefully over the wedding arrangements. We weren't pressed for time. We had our entire future ahead of us. Or, so I thought. When we shared the news of our engagement with my family, their responses were varied, to put it mildly. My mother offered a forced smile and stated, "Oh, how nice," in a tone that conveyed anything but. My father grumbled, "Good luck with that," before resuming his television viewing. Mike exhibited the most peculiar reaction. He offered congratulations, but his smile was unsettling, almost menacing. I dismissed it then, chalking it up to my own insecurities. The subsequent year was consumed by wedding preparations and professional pressures. Sarah and I were both dedicating long hours to accumulate savings for our wedding and a down payment on a property. We weren't spending as much time together as we used to, but I rationalized it as a temporary phase. Every relationship encounters challenges, correct? In hindsight, I should have heeded the indicators. Sarah grew withdrawn, perpetually engrossed with her phone, smiling at messages she attributed to work colleagues. She began socializing more frequently with her friends, returning home late and with the scent of alcohol and perfume. I still maintained complete faith in her. I never entertained the possibility of her infidelity, let alone with my own sibling. Sarah's behavior shifted noticeably a few months prior. She became irritable, quick to anger, and frequently experienced nausea. I was thrilled by the potential that she was expecting. We hadn't been actively trying, but we had contemplated starting a family eventually. I began to envision ways to support her, considering nursery themes and potential baby names. Then, one evening, she sat me down, tears streaming down her face, and delivered the devastating news. She was pregnant, but the child wasn't mine. I was dumbfounded. Yes, our intimacy had diminished recently due to our demanding schedules, but I never suspected her of being unfaithful. When I inquired about the father's identity, she collapsed, murmuring, "It's Mike." My entire world disintegrated at that moment. Everything I believed, everything I had built my life upon, was demolished. I couldn't breathe or think. I was overwhelmed by a surge of betrayal and anguish. Sarah attempted to clarify, her words tumbling out amidst sobs. Apparently, it commenced during our engagement celebration. Mike had confronted her, claiming she was committing an error by marrying me. He exploited her vulnerabilities, asserting that she deserved more, and that he could provide her with everything I couldn't. It wasn't an isolated incident. They'd been engaged in an affair for months. I expelled Sarah from our home that night. I couldn't bear to look at her or remain in the same space as the woman who had deceived me so profoundly. She pleaded for my forgiveness, claiming it was a lapse in judgment and that she loved me, but all I could contemplate was the countless times she had lied to me, slept with my brother, and done so while wearing the ring I had bestowed upon her. After Sarah's departure, I faced Mike. I can't recall my exact words. It was a blur of fury and heartache. Initially, he attempted to downplay it as an alcohol-fueled mistake, devoid of significance. But when I pressed him, he became defensive, retorting, "Well, maybe if you'd been a more attentive fiancée, she wouldn't have sought me out." I lost control. I got into my vehicle and drove to his residence, intending to make him regret his words. I'm uncertain what I intended to do, but upon my arrival, Our parents were already there. Presumably, Mike had contacted them beforehand, fabricating a tale about Sarah seducing him and expressing remorse. And, predictably, they believed him. They always do. My mother immediately began lecturing me on forgiveness and familial bonds, while my father stood by, arms crossed, clearly disapproving of me, but not of his cherished Mike. I attempted to convey what had transpired, but they refused to listen. They persisted in urging me to forgive Mike and support Sarah during her pregnancy, emphasizing that family comes first. I snapped. Years of suppressed resentment and rage finally erupted. I articulated my feelings about their distorted sense of loyalty, how they had consistently prioritized Mike over me, and had never supported or defended me. I informed Mike that he was no longer my brother, that he was dead to me. I told my parents they could have the son they'd always favored because they no longer had me. I stormed out, disregarding their shouts and entreaties. I drove for hours without a specific destination, driven solely by the desire to escape everything and everyone. When I eventually returned home, I discovered numerous missed calls and messages. Sarah implored for another chance, and Mike vacillated between apologies and accusations. The majority of the messages, however, were from my parents, demanding that I grow up and reconcile. I ignored them all. I barely ate or slept. I took time off work, exhausting all my vacation days. I couldn't face anyone or endure the prospect of explaining the situation. I simply remained in my apartment, replaying every detail of my relationship with Sarah and every interaction with Mike, attempting to discern where I had erred. It's now been 3 months. To cope, I've relocated to a new residence, changed my phone number, and commenced therapy. But my family refuses to relent. Despite my efforts to sever communication, they continue to intrude upon my life. They've begun appearing at my workplace, hoping to ambush me and demand a reconciliation. My mother accosts me in the parking lot, weeping about how I'm destroying the family. My father leaves vitriolic voicemail messages, imploring me to be a man and forgive Mike. Mike himself has attempted to approach me on multiple occasions, but I've managed to evade him thus far. They've even employed flying monkeys, extended family members posing as concerned individuals, to guilt-trip me into forgiving Mike. Aunts and cousins I haven't spoken to in years are suddenly calling, reminding me of the paramount importance of family and how I should let bygones be bygones. It's as though they inhabit an alternate reality, where Mike and Sarah committed a trivial misstep rather than a life-altering betrayal. I received correspondence from Sarah yesterday. She is keeping the baby and plans to co-parent with Mike. And remarkably, my parents are delighted to become grandparents, conveniently overlooking the circumstances and the disparaging comments they made about Sarah when she was with me. The letter was replete with apologies and justifications, including how she and Mike discovered genuine love amidst this horrific situation. She even had the audacity to express the hope that we could all become friends for the sake of the child. I'm at my breaking point. A part of me yearns to sever all ties, relocate to another state, assume a new identity, and begin anew where no one is aware of this debacle. But another part of me is so enraged that I want to remain and fight, to demonstrate to them the perversity of the situation. I'm uncertain of the correct course of action. This betrayal has permeated every facet of my existence. I can't bear being solitary with my thoughts. I haven't even contemplated re-entering the dating scene, as the prospect of trusting someone to that extent terrifies me. Also experienced the loss of friendships as a consequence of this. Those who advocate that I adopt the moral high ground and reconcile with my family, as if I'm the culpable party, for refusing to participate in a charade of familial harmony with the individuals who have inflicted the deepest wounds. The notion of Sarah and Mike raising a child together, a child that should have been mine, is akin to a persistent blade twisting in my gut. I intellectually comprehend that the child is blameless in all of this. It's not the baby's fault that its progenitors are deceitful and unfaithful, but I can't compel myself to feel joy regarding its existence. My parents have begun to contemplate how I should be involved in the child's life, how I will assume the role of an uncle. The mere thought induces physical discomfort. How can I gaze upon this child without perceiving the ultimate symbol of my brother's treachery? Therefore, Reddit, my inquiry is, am I a fool for not extending forgiveness to my brother and ex-fiancé? Is it morally wrong to desire the severance of ties with my family over this matter? Any counsel on how to navigate this situation would be greatly appreciated, as I feel as though I'm submerged in a sea of duplicity and gaslighting. I apologize for the extensive length of this post. If you've persevered to this point, I genuinely appreciate it. Articulating all of this has been cathartic, in a sense. I'm unsure what I aim to achieve by disseminating this: validation, sagacity, or simply the opportunity to vent into the ether and have someone, anyone, acknowledge my plight. Edit. Oh my goodness, this gained traction overnight. Thank you all for your support and recommendations. I'm astonished by the outpouring of responses, and it will require some time to process all the comments. However, I wish to address a few recurring inquiries. Yes, I have consulted with a legal professional regarding securing a restraining order against my family. It's currently underway. I have no intention of engaging with the baby. It's not the child's fault, but I cannot become involved without jeopardizing my sanity. For those expressing curiosity about my employment, I've already communicated with human resources about the situation. They are aware and supportive. They've enhanced security at the reception area and provided me with the option of working remotely more frequently. I'm thankful for their empathy. Many of you have inquired whether I've considered relocating to another city or state. It's undoubtedly something I'm contemplating. My employer has offices in various other cities, so a transfer might be feasible. I'm weighing the advantages and disadvantages. To those proposing a DNA test, Sarah has confessed to the affair, and the timeline aligns. I see no justification to doubt that the child is Mike's. Even if it were my child, I doubt I could ever look at him without recalling this act of treachery. The sheer volume of individuals who have endured similar experiences has been overwhelming. It's disheartening to realize how prevalent this type of betrayal is, but it's also strangely comforting to know I'm not isolated. Thank you for sharing your narratives. To the individual who inquired whether I'd explored legal recourse against Mike for alienation of affection, I investigated it, but it's not recognized in my jurisdiction. Even if it were, I doubt I possess the fortitude for a legal battle currently. Several individuals have observed that Mike's behavior seems narcissistic. I've begun researching narcissistic personality disorder, and much of it resonates. It aids in my comprehension, but it doesn't excuse his actions. Those inquiring about Sarah's relatives are as shocked and infuriated as one might anticipate. They have ceased communication with her and have extended their support to me. It's a minor consolation, but I value it. To the person who asked if I'd ever considered having my own children, honestly, this entire ordeal has caused me to reevaluate whether I even desire a family. I'm striving to avoid making any significant decisions while I process everything. I'll keep you updated if anything substantial occurs. But for now, my primary focus is to heal and move forward. Thanks again, Reddit. You've assisted more individuals than you comprehend. Your encouragement and guidance have provided me with much to consider, and they've truly been a lifeline during this challenging period. I may not be able to respond to every comment, but please know that I read them all, and they've helped me feel less alone. Update. Hello, Reddit. It's been approximately 2 weeks since my previous post, and it's been quite turbulent. First and foremost, thank you for your invaluable assistance and direction. I didn't anticipate my post to achieve such widespread attention. Reading through all your responses has been both distressing and, paradoxically, reassuring. It's unsettling how common this type of deception is. The past few weeks have been exceptionally difficult. Recall how I mentioned I was pursuing a restraining order? That devolved into a significant ordeal. My attorney had filed the necessary documentation, and we had a hearing scheduled. I presumed it would be straightforward, given the evidence and the persistent harassment. But I was mistaken. My parents arrived at court accompanied by their own legal counsel, a high-profile attorney attired in an expensive suit, who likely charges more per hour than I earn in a week. They attempted to depict me as the irrational one, alleging I was dismantling the family over a trivial misunderstanding, as if Mike had accidentally tripped and fallen into my fiancée. Fortunately, the judge wasn't swayed. She granted the restraining order against Mike and my parents, but only after my mother wept dramatically in court, and my father glared at me as if I had committed homicide. Mike's reaction, however. I swear, if looks could kill, I wouldn't have exited the courthouse alive. As we were departing, Mike attempted to approach me, but my lawyer intervened, reminding him of the recently issued restraining order. Mike merely scoffed and declared, "This isn't over. You can't hide behind a piece of paper indefinitely." I'd be untruthful if I said his comments didn't unsettle me, but at least I now possess some legal protection. My work situation has also been a catastrophe. Remember when I mentioned my family appearing at my workplace? It all culminated last week. I was engaged in a client meeting when my assistant informed me that my mother was causing a commotion in the foyer. Apparently, she had brought along a photo album and was displaying baby pictures of Mike and me to my colleagues, while lamenting how close her sons used to be. When I arrived downstairs, I discovered her surrounded by several visibly uncomfortable co-workers. She was in the midst of recounting a tale about Mike and me bathing together as toddlers when she noticed me. She attempted to rush towards me, rambling about arranging a baby shower. I interrupted her, stating she needed to leave immediately, or I'd contact law enforcement for trespassing and violating the restraining order. Her expression resembled someone who had been physically struck, but after everything they had subjected me to, I was indifferent. Security escorted her out, and I spent the subsequent hour coordinating with my boss and coworkers to mitigate the damage. Most of them were understanding, but I could sense some were apprehensive about the drama I was introducing into the office environment. But it was the interaction with Mike that truly derailed me. Last Saturday, I was at the fitness center, attempting to release my rage on the punching bag. I was so engrossed that I didn't notice someone approaching until I heard his voice. I looked back, and there was Mike, smirking at me as if he hadn't just contravened the restraining order. He began shouting, ensuring everyone nearby could hear. I instructed him to leave before I contacted the authorities, but he laughed, stating he would inform them I had threatened him and Sarah. That's when I lost control. I lashed out at him, landing a punch squarely on his jaw. He stumbled backward, then pounced at me. We ended up on the floor, exchanging blows like children, again. But this time, there were no parents present to separate us. No one instructing me to be the bigger person and allow Mike to prevail. I managed to land a couple of effective hits before the gym personnel intervened. Mike's nose was bleeding, and I could feel my face swelling. We were both yelling, attempting to break free and attack each other again. The gym manager threatened to summon the police, which ultimately snapped me out of it. I grabbed my belongings and fled. I was driving home, still trembling from the adrenaline surge, when I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sarah was yelling at me about fracturing Mike's nose and suggesting he might require surgical intervention. I couldn't help but chuckle. Sarah being displeased with me after what they had perpetrated was utterly ludicrous. I sarcastically apologized if I had inconvenienced her precious boyfriend, with whom she had been engaging in clandestine relations behind my back for months. She began weeping, moaning about how frightened she was, how the baby could sense her distress, and how I was being so selfish. I terminated the call and blocked her number. The repercussions of the altercation were severe. News circulated rapidly within our social circle. My phone was inundated with messages from friends and relatives, some offering support, while others reprimanded me for assaulting my poor, defenseless brother. Sarah's parents contacted me again, expressing their continued support for me, as well as their disappointment in their daughter. It was a small comfort, but at this juncture, I'll accept any solace I can find. The restraining order no longer seems sufficient. Mike has already demonstrated his willingness to disregard it, and I'm genuinely apprehensive about his potential future actions. The legal ramifications have been a nightmare. My lawyer contacted me the day following the gym incident to inform me that Mike had filed assault charges against me. I explained how Mike violated the restraining order and provoked me. My lawyer sighed and stated we'd contest it, but it might be an uphill battle since I initiated the physical contact. We're in the process of filing charges against Mike for violating the restraining order. My lawyer believes this will bolster our case, but nothing is guaranteed. I've had to provide statements to the police, display my facial and knuckle injuries, and explain why I was defending myself against my own sibling. The entire process is mortifying. To exacerbate matters, Mike and I have been permanently banned from the fitness center. While I don't fault them, it's devastating because the gym was one of the few venues where I could channel my anger in a constructive manner. My cousin Amy, with whom I've always been close, contacted me recently. She's been under considerable pressure from her family to support me, but she's remaining steadfast. She clarified what had been transpiring behind the scenes. Apparently, my parents have been disseminating falsehoods to everyone, claiming I'm experiencing a mental breakdown. They allege that Sarah and Mike's relationship commenced after Sarah and I separated, and that I'm merely envious and unwilling to move on. According to Amy, the majority of the family is skeptical, but some are accepting the narrative. It's infuriating to know they're propagating lies about me while I'm still attempting to recover. Work has been challenging, to put it mildly. After the incident with my mother creating a disturbance in the lobby, and the altercation with Mike going viral on local social media, I can sense my colleagues' unease around me. Earlier this week, my manager summoned me to his office. He commenced by stating he valued me as an employee and acknowledged I was traversing a challenging period. Then he delivered the bombshell. He suggested I take a leave of absence until matters stabilized. He referred to it as a personal sabbatical, compensated, of course, but it was evident the decision was predetermined. I yearned to resist, to inform him that work was the sole thing maintaining my sanity presently, but I knew it would be futile. I acquiesced, thanked him for his understanding, and began to clear out my office. As I was departing, I overheard two co-workers whispering about how my brother got my fiancée pregnant. I slammed my office door more forcefully than necessary as I exited, deriving a modicum of satisfaction from observing them jump. I'd be lying if I claimed none of this impacted me. I've begun taking extended drives at night, simply to escape my apartment. Sometimes, I find myself parked outside my former residence, the one I shared with Sarah, pondering how my life became so profoundly disrupted. Amidst all this turmoil, I discovered solace from an unexpected source: Sarah's younger sister, Emma. She contacted me via social media, apologizing for her sister's actions and offering her support. Initially, I was skeptical. What if it was all a ruse? But after conversing with her, I realized she was as incensed by Sarah's behavior as I was. Emma has kept me apprised of Sarah and Mike's lives. They appear to have cohabitated, residing as if they hadn't shattered numerous lives to be together. Emma states Sarah is attempting to portray herself as the victim, lamenting to anyone who will listen about how she never intended to inflict harm, and that she and Mike are soulmates who discovered each other against all odds. It nauseates me, but I appreciate Emma keeping me informed. After all, information is power, even if it's knowledge I'd prefer not to possess. The social media fallout has been a nightmare. I've always been a private individual, but this event has thrust me into an unwelcome spotlight. Someone, most likely one of Mike's acquaintances, posted about our feud on a local Facebook page. The post didn't explicitly name us, but it recounted the situation with sufficient detail that anyone familiar with us could deduce the identities involved. The comment section devolved into a battleground. Some individuals defended me, asserting Mike deserved his fate. Others labeled me unstable and suggested I should be institutionalized. I made the egregious error of perusing some of the comments one night after consuming an excessive amount of beer. I hurled my phone across the room with such force that the screen shattered. Since then, I've deactivated the majority of my social media accounts. I can't endure the incessant notifications and messages from people I haven't communicated with in years, all of whom suddenly desire the salacious details of my personal life. With everything that has transpired, I've realized I can no longer remain in this city. There are too many memories and opportunities for encounters with Sarah, Mike, or my parents. I've begun exploring internal transfer opportunities within my company, and there's a promising prospect in our Seattle office. It's not ideal. I've never been fond of the persistent precipitation, but at this juncture, I'd relocate to the moon to escape this upheaval. I haven't made any definitive decisions yet, but the prospect of a fresh start is becoming increasingly alluring. A new city, a new apartment, and a new life where no one recognizes me as the individual whose brother engaged in an affair with his fiancée. My parents have remained uncharacteristically silent since the restraining order was implemented. I'm merely awaiting the inevitable, for them to discover a new method to insinuate themselves back into my life. Meanwhile, Sarah has been disseminating news of her pregnancy far and wide. Emma informs me she's been posting constant updates on social media, including ultrasound images, photographs of her burgeoning abdomen, and messages about how blessed she and Mike are and how thrilled they are to commence their family. Each new update feels like a fresh laceration, triggering the pain just as I believed I was beginning to heal. So, that's where matters stand. 2 weeks ago, I believed my life couldn't deteriorate further, yet it has. I'm still enraged and wounded, but also exhausted. I'm weary of justifying myself, Reddit. I suppose this is less of an update and more of a cry into the void. I'm unsure what I'm soliciting anymore. Advice, commiseration, or perhaps a time machine to prevent me from ever introducing Sarah to my brother. Whatever transpires next, I'll endeavor to keep you all informed. Your encouragement has meant more to me than you comprehend. It's comforting to be reminded that there are still benevolent individuals in the world, even when everything appears to be saturated with betrayal and deceit. Hello, Reddit. It's been a week since my last update, and I'm here with what I hope to be my final post about this calamity. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for their assistance and guidance along this journey. Your messages have been a lifeline during the darkest days of my life. A lot has happened in just 7 days, and I'm still trying to process everything. I guess I'll start with the major news. I'm moving. Yes, I took the plunge and accepted a transfer to our Seattle location. It wasn't an easy decision, but with everything that had transpired, I realized I needed a fresh start. The choice came following a particularly difficult day last week. I had just returned from another consultation with my attorney regarding Mike's assault claims when I noticed a piece of mail in my mailbox. It originated from Sarah. I almost discarded it, but my inquisitiveness prevailed. Inside, there was an ultrasound image and a handwritten letter articulating her and Mike's elation over their impending arrival. She expressed the hope that I could find it within myself to be happy for them, and that their child would be delighted to have me as an uncle. I lost all composure. Before I could reconsider, I had unblocked Sarah's phone number and contacted her. She answered on the second ring, and I unleashed my pent-up emotions. I articulated precisely my feelings about her, Mike, and their charming little family. I informed her that she was delusional if she believed I'd ever desire any association with that child, and that she, Mike, and the baby could all go to perdition. It wasn't my proudest moment, but it felt liberating to finally express everything I'd been suppressing. That night, I realized I couldn't reside in this city any longer. I contacted my supervisor and informed him of my desire to relocate to Seattle. To my astonishment, he appeared relieved, likely apprehensive about how this entire drama would reflect upon the organization. He vowed to expedite the paperwork, and by the following morning, it was official. I had a fortnight to gather my belongings and relocate across the country. My family and social circle were swift to learn of my impending move. Unsurprisingly, my parents were enraged. They appeared, uninvited, at my apartment, defying the restraining order once more to attempt to dissuade me from leaving. My mother wept, accusing me of forsaking the family, while my father railed at me for being selfish and immature. I didn't engage. I contacted law enforcement and had them removed for violating the injunction. My mother shrieked as they were escorted out, declaring that I would regret this, that family is paramount, and that I was squandering it. I slammed the door and resumed packing. Mike didn't contact me directly, likely due to the ongoing legal entanglements, but he did compose a lengthy statement on social media. He expounded on how some individuals are incapable of handling the happiness of others, and how he and Sarah were rising above the hate to concentrate on their new family unit. It was patently directed at me. I'll concede it stung to observe how many people liked and commented in support of his post, but I reminded myself that their opinions are inconsequential, as they're unaware of the truth. Sarah's reaction was the most unforeseen. Following our phone conversation, she confided in her sister Emma, who has been keeping me abreast of their situation. Emma informed me Sarah experienced an emotional breakdown, stating she recognized the wrongfulness of her and Mike's actions, and was apprehensive about the future. My cousin Amy, bless her heart, offered to assist me with packing. While we worked, she divulged more about what was transpiring within her family. Apparently, my aunt, my mother's sister, had a heated argument with my mother. She accused her of consistently favoring Mike and alienating me. She even informed my parents that they were reaping the consequences of their years of preferential treatment. I won't lie. It felt gratifying to hear that someone within the family was finally calling them out on their behavior. My lawyer assured me that my relocation would have no bearing on the pending legal dispute. We're still pursuing charges against Mike for violating the restraining order, and we're contesting the assault allegations he lodged against me. My lawyer feels confident that the judge will discern Mike's deception, particularly given his history of violating the injunction. Relocating across the country may potentially strengthen our case, as it demonstrates that I pose no threat to Mike and have no desire to interact with him. I'm uncertain if I'll post another update after this. Part of starting anew involves leaving the past behind, and as supportive as this community has been, I believe it's time for me to move on from this lamentable chapter. I need to concentrate on forging a new life rather than fixating on the past. So, I suppose this is it. Wish me luck, Reddit. I have an entirely new life awaiting me in Seattle, and I intend to make the most of it. Thank you for sticking with me throughout this ordeal. Your support has been invaluable, and it's reassuring to know that there are still good people in the world, even in a world seemingly replete with betrayal and deceit. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and activate the notification bell to stay informed about more shocking real-life stories occurring around you.